Okay, we're back, and in this video we're going to be talking about the object controls in your viewport. So moving, rotating, scaling, and selecting objects, at least the basic controls. At this point you should be able to maneuver around in your viewports pretty well, but we really haven't talked about these objects that you've been seeing in the videos. So in this video, which is 1009B, you can see I have this table, very nicely modeled table, and I've got a few little objects here. And what we want to do is get these objects up on the table, so move things around in 3D space. I'm going to expand out my perspective viewport here. I'm going to get a little bit more zoomed in so you can see what we're doing. There we go. And I'm going to go up to these viewports up here. There's 4 buttons we're interested in here. There's the select object button. This one we've been doing all along. It's just we didn't know where the button was. That button there allows us to select an object by left clicking on it, and it turns white, or it gets a bounding box around it depending on what our viewport settings are. You can see this table will turn white when I click on it. That means that object is selected in this viewport. There's that yellow frame, so you got to keep track of that yellow frame too, because you got to be selecting your object in the right viewport. So that is the select object button. The next one is select and move, and the first thing you're going to notice is it does just exactly the same thing as the last button does. So when I click on things, it turns them white. You'll also see now there's a little icon down here. That little icon goes away when I'm in the select object. So this one is select and move, so it's kind of a 2-for-1 deal, and that little gizmo down there is what we care about. So if I click on my box, and I zoomed in a little bit too far, so let's click on the box, you'll see that if I grab that blue arrow and move it up, and the red arrow and slide it over, and then maneuver this thing right into my viewport, you can see I can put that box right on that table. Same with my teapot here. So I can just slide him over, position him on my table, and depending on watching how it clips through the table, you'll see that those objects are now sitting right on the table. So if you can get those guys up on the table, you got the move down. The rotate button here does pretty much what you'd expect now. So it's a select and rotate, and you'll get these little bands. They look like they're going around a sphere here. We've seen these before. And I can rotate my object around on the table there. I'll hit undo. Same with my teapot. The scale button has a couple different settings. The first one here is scale uniform, and if I aim right there in that center triangle, I can uniformly scale this up and down. You can see I get some other options here, and if I grab those side pieces, I'm scaling on 2 axes. Same with my teapot. You can see that it'll get a little bit distorted, or that centerpiece is scale uniform. There's also a drop down here that you can use, and basically these 2 buttons down here do the same things as those buttons. You can see I can grab that line there on the z-axis, or that blue line, and I'm scaling up and down. We're going to use these buttons quite a bit. The keyboard shortcuts for these are Q for select object, W for move, E for rotate, and R for scale. So it's QWER, quir. And you can put your fingers on those, your index finger to your pointing finger. Just put those on them. Just make sure your thumb doesn't hit the keyboard, because that's the lock key, and that's a real easy to hit by accident once you start using those QWER buttons. But you can see if I just rotate through them, there's Q, W, E, and R. So there you go. The other thing that we'll talk about in here is the controls for setting the coordinates of your model. I'm going to very quickly kind of move some of these objects around in my scene a little bit, just so that they're a little bit more haphazard. See if I rotate around, nothing's really lined up there. They're just kind of scattered all over the place. I'm going to click on the table. No, actually, I'm going to click on the teapot first, I think. I'm going to right-click on the teapot. And here's those move, rotate, scale, select buttons again. Everything here in this quad menu is what you could do to your object when you right-click on it. So it's kind of like a quick menu for your object alone. And I'm going to go to the move, and this time I'm going to go over here to this little button, the little settings button next to move. I'm going to click on that. And you'll see here in the absolute world, I've got some random numbers. In the offset world, they're all pretty much zeros. That's because in the offset world, that's the object itself. It's like the object's little world that just encompasses the object. And we haven't really done anything to that. Over here, though, in the absolute world, which is our scene here, you'll see that these numbers are all skewed. And I'm just going to type in 0, 0, and 0, except I didn't get 0 there, and 0. There we go. And you'll see my teapot jumping around. And at this point, if I hit my grid button, or if I get out of this and hit the grid button, you'll see that my teapot is set right to that 0, 0 marker, those two black lines. This time, instead of right-clicking here and going to the Move Settings button, this one, on my box, I'm going to go down here to these boxes down below, these X, Y, and Z buttons. I'm way down here at the bottom of the screen. And this time, I'm just going to zero those out. And it's going to do exactly the same thing. And showing you two things here. The first one is that there are lots of different places to zero out things, or lots of different places to do the same thing in Mac. So don't get confused. If you like one more than the other, just use that one. You'll see my rotation's off a little bit there. So it should show a different number. It does. My Z-axis is off. It's at -11 because I left it that way on purpose when I was rotating it around. I'm going to hit 0, hit enter, and you'll see now my box, if I rotate around it, is completely centered on that black line. I'm going to do the same thing over here to my table. I'm just going to move it back. I'm going to use these settings this time. I tend to use these down at the bottom. Make sure you hit enter after each one. Now all my objects are centered. Sorry, you just saw the selection for the round selection. Now I'm back to that square selection. And now I'm going to move both of these up to the top of the table. And what this allows me to do is get everything in my scene nice and centered so that I can move it around a little bit easier, get it set up in the scene a little bit better. A lot of the modifiers that we're going to use in the future will need things to be zeroed out, or their position to be in the center. So you're going to see that a lot. It's not a big deal, real easy. Again, just a quick review. There's select object, select and move, select and rotate, select and uniform scale, Q, W, E, R on the keyboard. You can also right-click on the object. You'll get these setting boxes for each one. You can zero them out through there, or you can come down to these selection boxes down here, and you can zero them out down there and move your objects around real easily. So practice those, Q, W, E, R. They're going to never go away. For the rest of your life, you're going to be using them in Macs. So I hope this little video helped you out. We'll be back in the next video, and we're going to talk about how to import and export things out of Macs and get your file scenes saved. So be back for that.